Here right as the event is starting is you don't have a chance to debug the clicker, so we're going to test this in real time this morning. It's very great to be here. Great to see some folks you haven't seen in a little while. And I think as the first talk for the day, obviously I'm going to talk about what we're doing, but also I want to help set the stage a little bit with things that are happening in printed and flexible electronics. So I would start the talk with this picture, which I showed a couple of times, but I still like it, so we're going to look at it again. So this to me is a very inspirational picture, but this is also a very aspirational picture because this represents, well, first of all, it's a Mercedes concept car that was debuted at CES just a couple of years ago. And it represents a convergence of what I see happening in products and technologies that very much impacts what we're doing in printed and flexible electronics. So when I look at this from a couple of different angles, I put on my mechanical engineering hat, and I look at this, and I have some real questions about this vehicle from an engineering perspective, propulsion and suspension, and how do all the moving mechanical pieces work, and how do they fit into this, because there doesn't seem to be much body work. When I look at this from an electrical engineering perspective, which I'm not an electrical engineer, I think this looks pretty intriguing. There's obviously control systems involved and interfaces involved. When I look at this as a lover of art and things that look nice, I think this looks very aesthetically pleasing in the colors and the shapes and whatnot. But I also look at this and think that this is not where we are right now from a technology perspective. This is not something that we could really necessarily make right at this moment because it represents a convergence of things that are still developing. And this is a very nice and aspirational picture. The negative part of convergence, though, is that there are some challenges and problems associated with making things that we have right now. And so from our perspective at PulseForge, we're highlighting thermal processing because at PulseForge, we make thermal processing equipment. So using flash lamps to sinter and melt and reflow. And it turns out that there's a role for this kind of new thermal processing technology on both pictures, on the aspirational side to help enable some of these new technologies and capabilities for products that we think we want. But it also can help to solve things like this. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And the problem is that to get to this, as I said, we're not quite there yet, because this is the evolution that we're accustomed to. This is 30 or 40 years of cell phone development, communications development, state-of-the-art technology development. Functions have changed completely and dramatically and drastically. I see a few folks in here that look like they might have had the phone up at the top left along with me. I also see folks in here that definitely did not have that phone at the top left. But all of us have one that looks like this. And while the functions have changed, the form has absolutely not changed. Right? The form of those still looks like this. And the reason for that is because they're all predicated on this kind of technology set. And it works really, really well, but it's also very limiting in what we're able to get to. And so the problem is how do we think that we're magically going to be able to get to this kind of structure following this kind of technology track when all we can do is make things that look like this? Right? So there's a real fundamental disconnect. And I know I'm preaching to the choir a little bit. That's why we're here. This ecosystem is put together so that we can step away and evolve and add to these kinds of technologies so that we can get to products that hopefully look like something on the top left. So a quick introduction about PulseForge. A phrase I like that I think describes a lot of what we're doing here in this community is deep tech. And that means technologies that evolve over a decade or more that are fundamentally a different approach to problem solving from different approaches to science. We were having some great conversations at dinner last night about science, right? And science is important, but it's also important to be able to transition that into product, and that's what we've done at PulseForge. Our metal-on conductive inks through Novacentrics are in use right now in vehicles that are on the road. This isn't something that we can publicize dramatically, but some of you may have been in vehicles, and certainly cargo has been in vehicles that have our inks built into those vehicles right now, which is pretty cool. And then on the tool side, on the equipment side, Our PulseForge tools have been used to make cell phone displays for a little while now. So most of you probably have something in your pocket that was enabled